Alright, YouTubers, so this is somewhat of a tip video from somebody that's bought 7 10th gen Intel CPUs and probably 9 400 series motherboards that would support those. Now, I don't consider myself like some great expert on everything. A lot of this stuff I have to figure out on my own. I may have to do some Google searches, whatever. Each time Intel goes to a new generation, there's a lot of stuff you've got to learn because there's usually things that are different, right? So, what have I found so far? Well, I had all this high speed RAM, and a lot of it just is not working out like you would hoped. It's not necessarily the same thing as when I go over to my Ryzen 400 series motherboard, the 450 that I have here, and I put my 3600 megahertz RAM in it, and boom, it works perfectly. Um, in Intel's case, if you have the Z490, you can get the higher speed runs on your RAM, okay? So assuming compatibility, you may be able to get 4,000, 5,000 megahertz. Now, with the other motherboards, the H410, the H470, the B460, totally different story. You're limited by your CPU and the fact that you bought that cheaper motherboard. All right, so a lot of stuff that you need to look into. And if you have RAM sitting at home, I will tell you if it's 2666 that you're probably not going to need to buy any new RAM if you have something like the H410, H470, B460, okay? It's going to depend on what CPU you went with. Now, i3 and below, so Celeron, Pentium, i3 10100, 10300, 10320, they are limited to max RAM speeds of 2666. So I actually, in this computer, have a Pentium Gold G6400. This is 10th gen. I have 3200 megahertz RAM in here. This is the best speed that I can get out of it, okay? No matter what I do, I will not be able to get anything faster. I put an i7 in here. It's another story. This is now 2933. All right, assuming compatibility. It may take a different RAM set that I have to get to 2933, but the max speed for an i7, i5, i7, i9 is going to be 2933. This applies to not only the H410. Let's see what else I have up here. Well, the H470 and the B460. So does not apply to the Z490 though, because the Z490, at least this one, is good up to 4400 megahertz, okay? All right, so assuming you have 3000 megahertz RAM and you have an i7, you'll still want to go check out the website, the manufacturer's website for your motherboard, and see if it's going to be compatible, all right? So what do? Let's back up a little. I would do is click on support over here. So when you first come in, this is what you're going to see, okay? And then you'll want to click on support. And from here, you're going to click on CPU memory support. It's also the same place that you would go to look for what CPUs are supported. And might as well click on this. This should be NVMe, SATA, things like that, if it comes up at all. This computer is a dog. Okay, so you see different types of drives, and you can search for power supplies, peripherals, things like that. Some of the sites which we will cover actually allow you to look for M.2s, okay? So this one, it does not. All right, memory. This is what we're here for. Asus does a good job with this as far as I have XPG on here by Adida. And so I could click this button right here and we can filter out everything but ADDA. All right, so one of these 3200 megahertz one is mine. We've got an i5 in here, i7, i9. There's your max RAM speed, okay, 2933. Regardless, this is the fastest you could ever get. Now, i3, Pentium, Celeron, 2666. It doesn't state it here. How do I know that? Well, I've tried it out. And the fact that you'll see here, DDR 2666. If you go to the i7, you'll see it says 2933. The i5 says 2933. And the i9 says 2933. All right, let's do one more example. All right, so this is an H470. I don't have this one. I've got an ASRock, a different ASRock one, but this one's a lot cooler than mine, so I figured I'd use this one. We first come in here. You'll see down below, overview, specification, support. This is the support you want, not the one that's up here, okay? This one's not going to help you out. You want this one. And now this guy actually provides you with some storage stuff. So this is one spot you want to go to see if you'll have compatibility. Some of these are NVMe, some of them are SATA. You'll want to, they don't have that nice little search thing, but you can easily find your stuff alphabetically. And a good old, of course, it seems like every motherboard, Samsung 970 EVO is going to work, all right? So if you can afford it, save yourself the hassle of worrying about compatibility, just buy one of these. But this is where you would go to check to see if these are compatible, if it will recognize it. I believe there's a lot more solid state drives out there than what is shown here, so potentially there are some that have issues. I have a Pioneer that no matter what I do in all the computers that I've tried, never got it to boot to Windows. Alright, so that's where you'd find the storage. CPU supported list would be here. For whatever reason it's not. Just know this should support all the 10th gen. Now for memory, same deal, okay? This is an H470, and you can narrow this down by vendor if you want to. But you'll see all these different speeds over here, right? This is the fastest the speed's going to get, all right? So 3200 runs at 2933, and that's how it goes with this motherboard. All right, so we need one more example. We haven't done a B460, and we've got to back out on this one. I had to actually, do this video a couple times. All right. So when you first come in here, this is what you're going to see. In this case, the support you want is this one, not that one. You want this support. Under here, you'll find all this wonderful stuff, manual drivers. You want to click on CPU memory support. In here, you can see what CPUs are actually compatible. And surprisingly, the 10900 will work. Now, 10900K, do I recommend this motherboard? I think you're wasting your money buying the CPU and pairing it with this motherboard. It's just my thoughts. Click on memory. And, since we are on ASUS's site, they have the nice filter up here. So we can filter as well once again here. But the main thing to look at, you will not see any run speeds higher than 2933 over here. Okay, no matter what we do, which ones we look at. Matter of fact, they pretty much have they don't even show the higher speed RAM. So now the 2800, what's that going to run at? 2800. 2666. What's it going to run at? 2666. So this, of course, is, we go back to this same statement from before. i5 and above will allow you to run at 2933, assuming that you have selected compatible RAM that's listed here. All right. Now, to end this, let's look at Z490. And, you know, I've somewhat did this video before, but I just don't know that people got really understood what the hell I was talking about. So we're doing it again. And I may have mentioned already, I have in here, this is an H410. And we have, for memory, 2666, 3200 megahertz. So I have gone through all this pain, folks, multiple times, trying to get this RAM to run higher. And now let me tell you a little tip. If you don't quite listen to what I have to say, and you must try to run your higher speed RAM, try and run it faster than either 2666 for Pentium 3 or i3 and below, or try and run it higher than 2933 for i5 and above, and your computer will no longer actually boot up to a display. What you're going to have to do is take out your CMOS battery and reset the BIOS, and then you'll be able to go back in there and set your RAM speed to the values I have told you. All right. Now, Z490, you may run into that same problem with Z490, okay? Assuming that you did not select a compatible RAM. So, let's look at the Z490. This is one that I actually have. You'll see it featured on the channel a lot. Do I really like this motherboard? No. I think this is the cheapest Z490 you can find. And I've been pretty frustrated with it. For a little bit more, I bought a Gigabyte one that makes me a little happier. Now, are these the best things in the world? Either one of them, no. But they're still better than the B460s and H470s and H410s that I bought. Alright, so there's support up here. Once again, we don't want that one. We want this support. And you see storage. Once again, here's that pretty much that same list of what's compatible. Double check that. Make sure you don't have to buy new M.2 SSD. CPU support list. This one will support all these guys. And right now, I have an i7 10700K in there. And so everything's, you know, it's pretty good. Could it be better? Yeah, if I had a better motherboard. But let's look at memory now. Now you see, I think I can click on these. So the fastest RAM that is compatible with this motherboard happens to only be 4400 megahertz. I have, I believe, seen some that say up to 5000, but this guy is 4400. Now, if you buy this exact same model, by this exact same, exact same vendor, you should get 4400. All right, using your extreme memory profile, it should nail that, right? Now, some of these you will see they're compatible, but they are not giving you the advertised speed. And I may, yeah, here's one right here. So you buy this 3800 one, the fastest you can get is 3773. So that is not uncommon. Now, potentially you may have RAM, like in my case, for this motherboard, 3600. It's G-Skill, Ripjaw. I don't even know if it's listed on here. I do not get anything higher than, I think, 3433, something like that, or 3466, okay? So I have a bunch of RAM, not necessarily compatible with this motherboard. I cannot get these speeds, okay? So what happens when I say, oh, let me do the pull down and I want to grab 3600 megahertz. When I boot it up, depending on the motherboard, it may try a few times and then actually boot to BIOS and drop that RAM speed down to either 2133 or 2666. That's when things go well. When things go bad, the computer looks like it boots up, doesn't display anything, none of the lights turn on, and I end up wondering what's wrong. Well, I've done this enough that I know what I have to do is shut the computer down. So hold in the power button, hit the switch on the PSU, whatever. I then take my flathead screwdriver and I remove the CMOS battery. Completely remove it. I then put it back in, restart it. When I restart it, the RAM will be dropped down. It'll either end up at 2133 or 2666. I will then go in and try a speed lower than that, okay? So whatever those options may be, if 3466 is the next one, I'll try that. If it is 3333, I'll try that. If it's 3200, I'll try that. If it's, next 36. So whatever, I will go through that process until I find a RAM speed that will actually work, okay? If it's not listed on here, which in my case it appears not to be listed. So hopefully you got something out of that. I know I talked for 17 whole minutes. You guys probably saw all kinds of advertisements. They probably drove you nuts. But I do hope, honestly, that you got something out of this. I hope that my pain and frustration that I have gone through will help you out. So thanks for checking out the video. Please like, please subscribe. Thank you.